This is Changing Nature, where we have conversations about how to live a more nature-connected, more environmentally conscious life. Welcome. I am Ria Michelle. Last week, on our first of two episodes exploring our relationship with houseplants and how they benefit our mental health, I spoke to Liv from Fancy Plants. This is an independent plant shop in Bristol, England, and we learned a lot about how to make the best choices for long, healthy, and mutually beneficial relationships with our houseplants. Today, I talked to some passionate plant enthusiasts about their journey with keeping houseplants. Research has explored the relationship of houseplants on human health, with significant evidence for a positive impact on our mental health, improving our moods, reducing stress, increasing productivity, and our concentration too. Throughout the COVID pandemic, with many of us confined to our homes, the psychological benefits of houseplants became even more evident. I really enjoyed my conversations with some plant lovers about their relationships with houseplants that I'm going to share with you today. So let's get started, and we'll begin with Elizabeth, a jewellery designer from Herefordshire.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Terza, but you can call me Beth. I'm a jewellery designer, nature lover, dog mum.
I would love to know, where did your journey with houseplants first begin?
I actually have a really bad record with houseplants. I used to buy a lot of them and then be really sad that they would just die. Until a really close friend of mine who is actually studying propagation at the moment, she taught me that I should just have one houseplant and love it and learn all about it, wait till it's thriving and then get another one.
Oh, what good advice.
So yeah, I've been growing my collection for about maybe 6 years now.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your collection? Like what plants do you have? Or what was that first plant that you loved?
Oh, so that was a monstera, and it was the first one I got. It was like a tiny little leaf, and now it's about 6 foot tall, and
Oh
like
my
the leaves are
goodness.
like bigger than my head.
That's a lot of love.
Yeah, I actually counted them all up this morning. About 24 houseplants now that are all
All
happily
thriving.
alive.
That's amazing. What do you feel they give you? What do you really, I mean, you must feel you get a lot of positivity from them.
Yeah, well, I think especially because in my work I'm so inspired by nature, and in the spring and summer and autumn I just like want to be outside all the time surrounded by it, but then I just feel really sad outside in the winter. So for me it's like bringing that nice foliage feeling inside.
Yeah, having the green all year round.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And do you feel that caring for them gives you something as well?
Yeah,
That the actual effort that you put into it gives you that kind of nurturing benefit.
I mean I don't have babies yet, so they're sort of my house babies.
That's amazing. So what of your 24 beautiful thriving plants do you think's your favorite?
Oh, okay,
I know it's
so
hard. Choose among your
yeah,
children.
actually this one here, I love it so much. But it's got a horrible name. It's called a spiderwort. But I think it's really beautiful. It's been really easy to grow. And I think it's also called a dayflower, which sounds a bit nicer.
That's a
But,
bit nicer.
we won't go with that one.
So what makes it easy for you? Does it suit your kind of personality in terms of, I
Well,
know that sometimes people underwater or overwater or,
yeah, I'm quite sporadic with house watering. Don't really have a schedule because I'm quite busy, and they'll just be left alone for a week. And so this one doesn't actually require much water.
Next, I spoke with Charlotte Argaru, a botanical illustrator who loves drawing everything floral, foliage, and feathered, and sells her work as fine art. I began by asking her where her journey with houseplants began.
I think my journey with houseplants began when I was a very little girl, when I got a packet of seeds in a Happy Meal from McDonald's, which was a pack of nasturtiums. I don't know if you know anything about nasturtiums, but they're very easy and they grow. They go kind of wild. They go quite big and they spread and they're very colourful. I had these bright orange ones. And I think that impact, that visual impact that it had so quickly really struck with me when I was little. Like, oh, you can plant a little seed and then within a few weeks, you get those rewards, something really starts happening and you can see it. And then through my teenage years, I had cacti to various success. If I put them in the right place and things like that, too close to the window. It was all a bit experimental. And then nothing for at least a decade while we lived in very grotty flats in London. And now we're sort of settled in our own home. We've been a bit more committed to growing a collection.
I would love to know, you have a collection of plants in your house. How many do you think you have? What are they? Lots of different types?
Yes.
Could you paint us a picture of what you've got going on?
Okay, so it changes during the year because we have a very tiny garden and we have everything in pots. So we bring them in through the winter. So there will be times when my studio has a lemon tree and a lime tree in it, and they'll just sort of go on any windowsill. So during the winter, we have a lot. And then right now I'm growing seeds in mini greenhouses, again on windowsills. We find these ones that are quite narrow but long and thin, so they just sit on a sill. So there's quite a lot of seeds growing. My husband thinks it's going to be a mad quantity, but I just think it'll be fine. And then in our bedroom, but we sort of choose things because they say they're going to work in this environment and we just see how it goes.
So what do you personally feel you're getting from bringing the outside in, from having all these plants around you day to day?
I don't know if it's an artist thing, but I think very visually. And so I love to look at greenery. I find green is my it's my relaxing colour. If I ever feel stressed out, I have a sort of visualization technique where I step into a pool of dark green and I stand myself in it. So I find just surrounding myself with plants makes me feel good. And that doesn't just have to be real plants. I've got big tree mural wallpapers. I have prints on the wall all around. Everything in my house on the wall is botanical. I love the patterns that the plants make on the white walls, just those shadows coming in. When I see those little moments in the day, it's, I don't know, like a second of meditation for me.
And how does your husband feel about all of these plants as well? Does he get the same
Yes,
sort of thing from it?
He is primary carer to our house plants. I look after the kids. He looks after the plants. He is very different to me, though, in that he loves the process of it. So when we were potting on some seeds that are about this big at the weekend, we were sat around our kitchen table with the kids and we were all doing it. And he looked at me and he said, "This is family goals." Because everyone was happy just, doing that. And he likes getting his hands in it. He likes, coming in from work and just clipping a bit here and there and pottering about. So he's very much in the process of it, whereas I just love the look of it.
That's so interesting. So very different approaches, but you're both getting that nurturing, soul feeding thing from it. Definitely. In a very different way. That's fantastic.
Nourishing.
And your kids seem to be fully involved in the process as well. Are they enjoying it?
They are. They're very green-fingered. They love growing stuff. One of my daughters is very floral. She'll say things like, "Mummy, if we had more flowers, it would be more fabulous." I'm like, yeah, you're right.
You can't argue with that, right? You can't argue with that.
But she wants everything mad colours, which is, I prefer things a bit more muted. So we have a kind of clash of creative directions. I'm like, when you get your own home, you can have all your mad colours.
I mean, you talked about like that kind of light play that you get when the light comes in through the windows and plays with the leaves, and I totally get that. But are there some plants, therefore, that create that sort of environment? That I'm looking for, do you have favourites amongst your plant babies? Or is it more all of them together? Is it the kind of environment that you've created with all of these indoor?
It is. There are some particular leaf shapes that I think with that light play are just stunning. We have an olive tree, again, in a big pot, and it was in during the storms recently. And those leaves are just sort of long and lean, look so beautiful when that's on the walls. But my favourite is this one right next to me. This is a calathea. Can you see the beautiful, I'd say the word print. I don't know if that is the right word. But, it's like a fabric print.
I know that you've said that your husband is primary caregiver to your plants. Are there ones that you've found more difficult to keep alive? I mean, I know it sounds to me like you've actually put quite a lot of thought into which you're selecting
Yeah.
for your space, so that they're already coming in. You know they're coming into somewhere that they love.
Yes.
But are there any that you found really tricky?
Yes. I have a dead eucalyptus. It's beautiful dead. The arch
Oh
of
wow!
the sort of branch structure and the little petals, and it's in all these sort of very muted brown taupey colours. It makes amazing shadows, and I'm not willing to chuck it out.
I love this. I love the finding the positivity in it. That's
It's
fantastic.
so beyond dead. Like, you can't touch it because it would just sort of crumble. But visually, I love it. We're not getting rid of it.
Amazing, amazing. Let me introduce to you Magda, a yoga instructor and senior product coordinator at the University of Portsmouth. We started discussing when she first thought about keeping houseplants.
So I think that it was when I was at the university, so in Portsmouth, and I went back to Poland, and I saw that my mum started collecting plants, and they seemed to be loving life, and it was something new because we never had like many plants at home. And I remember that we picked one up, and she actually named it after me, which was like quite funny but cute at the same time. And then I think that one of my friends gifted me my first aloe vera plant, and I was like really excited because obviously you hear about all of the properties of aloe vera, but then unfortunately I killed that one. So, but it was a learning curve, and then I got better, progressively better from then on. And then I think that it was just when I moved into my first flat, then I had a bit more space and wanted to make it a bit more homely. And I think that plants give you exactly that, that just bit of life, and otherwise, you know, not like dead environment, but they definitely liven things up around. So this is when I started building my collection.
Could you tell me a bit more about what plants you have at the moment? What does your collection consist of?
Oh, so I've got like between 15 to 20 plants, and but I have many duplicates because like now my aloe vera plants thrive. So I get to like propagate them, and then I make sure that I have like enough so I can give to friends because I think it's a really nice thing. So I have plenty of succulents just because I've always liked them, and they are low maintenance, so you don't need to worry about like going on holiday or whatever, but I still love to see them grow bigger and thrive. I have a Venus flytrap, um, two types of calathea, and just some like random plants that I got like from friends. There are even like a couple that I don't even know what they called, to be honest with you. But since I've established a relationship with them, I seem to know how to take care of them. So I think that that's the most important thing here right now.
What for you personally is the benefit that you get from keeping plants? Is it very much that sort of relationship, the nurturing of them? Is it the aesthetics? What does having that indoor jungle, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, indoor jungle is definitely the way I would describe what my flat looks like. I'm running out of space. I would say I didn't really think about the aesthetics, but it's definitely something that is a bonus. I would probably say it is in a way it's having to show up for them. So regardless of like how you're feeling and how busy or tough life gets, then you still need to tend to them. And unlike pets, they're not really going to tell you like what they need. Obviously, you need to slow down and study them. So this is, coming back to developing that relationship with them to get to know them basically. So also as the seasons change, so their needs will change. So I think having plants, it forces you to slow down and develop a more mindful approach to life in general, not just in terms of looking after your plants. So there's definitely that. And I think that, there is that perhaps like an ego boost. That if you see that your plants are thriving, then you're doing something well. So then it's like they give back, so the care you put in, and then they just look pretty, and it's just nice to look at. And obviously you're a photographer, so you might know this, that I recently learned that green is the only color where your like retina doesn't need to adjust. So that's why green is such a soothing color, and your eyes can rest. So you can even look at your plants and turn it into like a meditative activity. So
I
yeah,
love
food for
this. I
thought.
love the idea that the mindfulness aspect to it, that it forces you to slow down, to pay attention with the seasons, with the day. I think it's a beautiful way of looking at that relationship, as you say.
Yes, yes, definitely. And it's also teaches you how to adapt, and that kind of like even like psychological flexibility, that it's not always like, even if something is cyclical, then within those cycles the requirements or needs can change, so you need to be open and be able to adapt. So I think that that's also something that we can take away from that, and exercise in our day-to-day life, like aside from looking after our plants.
I would love to know, it's a difficult decision, but is there a plant that you found particularly rewarding to keep? One that gives you a particular benefit?
I do love my calathea, because I like to see when it goes to sleep and it points the leaves up. So it looks like it's praying, even in a way, or like, it signifies, it communicates that, that now I go to sleep, now it's my rest. So it's like hanging a door sign that's like closed, I'll be back tomorrow, or something like that. So I do like to notice those changes. But the one that I feel most well, I would say, like, I'm not very maternal, but when it comes to my Venus flytrap, then like she evokes that part of me, which is quite magnificent, I'd say. So even to an extent that, like, I found a dead fly and I would take it and like put it in its trap. And I just thought that was amazing, that I felt so strong about this one. And yeah, no, when I saw that she was like flowering, then I don't know, it was just this kind of sense of pride, joy, that she was just loving it. And obviously, when it comes to um, such plants, then they have that element of being really fierce. So I think that maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm such a big fan of my Venus flytrap.
Finally, today I speak with Anandi, a plant enthusiast from South Africa.
My name is Anandi. I am a very recent plant mom, and it has become a massive hobby. I also do business strategy and business coaching with a lot of my clients. I live in South Africa in a city called Pretoria. It is one of our main cities here in the country, and it's where Parliament stays, and we have just the most amazing weather, and it is a really great spot to be able to grow and keep houseplants because we have lots of light, we have good weather, we've got some heat, which all are conducive to helping them grow and be
Yeah,
happy.
very different to what we have here in the UK. So I can't wait to hear about your
Yes,
experience. So
absolutely.
could you tell me a little bit more about how you got into keeping houseplants? Like, where did your journey begin?
So, interestingly enough, I used to kill houseplants all the time. It was not something I was interested in whatsoever until about 4 years ago. Friends of mine gave me for my birthday, it was a crate with soil, with the coverings, and it was seedlings to plant. I think there was a sunflower, chilies, and beans in there. And I had just met my husband now, but he was my partner at the time then. And we did this together. And I joked, making a reference to that movie with Kate Hudson, 10 Things I Hate About You, and her love phone. I said, this is going to be our love plants. If we kill them, then our relationship is doomed.
No pressure.
um, Well, I'm happy to say that our chilies are still alive 5 years
Oh, wow.
later. We harvest them on a regular basis. But that kind of started the idea of growing a veggie garden, eating from our own vegetables, and then that kind of transpired into wanting plants in the home. And I really did a lot of research in terms of air purifying plants, plants that help with sleep, and then beginner plants, since I had this slightly bad track record of killing plants. And that kind of just morphed into now owning 37 house plants
Wow.
and counting.
That's amazing. So it's really interesting that you mentioned like the air purifying, I suppose the scientific type basis for keeping plants. I know there's been some research done on that. Do you really feel that it's helped in that way? I'm interested to know how you feel like bringing those plants into your home, bringing the outside in, has helped you feel.
Well, I don't know so much on the scientific level. Is our air cleaner? Do we sleep better? But since we've had plants in the home, I can definitely feel a change in our attitudes, in our moods, because we have the greenery around us. We're growing something. In fact, we killed a plant the other day and it was like mourning. And we're like, we killed our child. It was very devastating. And it makes you then kind of revisit, like, okay, let's make sure we're giving them the best food and the best water, and because when they are happy, it makes me happy. In fact, my husband laughs at me because when a new leaf emerges, I sing to it and I'm like, welcome, come and join the family. And that has had so many different impacts on us. So I'm sure there is, I mean, if there's research has been done, I'm sure it is. And we do sleep better and we do feel happier. But I think it's an overall impact that it has had on our lives and our mental states and just our being and our relationship as well, because we like both invested in this keeping our plants alive.
Absolutely. I think so far some of the evidence shows that you need an awful lot of house plants and you need very specific species to have that sort of air purifying benefit. But
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's the nurturing that's one of the biggest mental health impacts. It's that the change in your behavior because you have these things to care for. As a fellow killer of houseplants here, it can be very traumatic and it can sort of have the opposite effect. So it sounds
Yes.
like you've got the hang of it on the whole with the odd one. What have you done over the years to make sure that you take good care of them? Do you have a strategy for making sure that you get the positive effect from the plants rather than that mourning?
So I did in the beginning, like we had a watering schedule, we had, following strict rules, but then you also, as you start expanding your collection of plants, different plants have different needs. So some plants have a 7-day watering schedule where others have a 10-day watering schedule. Some like to sit in a little bit of water. Some like water from the bottom and not the top. And that kind of took a lot of trial and error to figure it out. And then we also got to a point where we started going non-soil based covering or structure for the plants. And it's actually leca, which is a clay pebble. And your plants sit in that as their structure. But the pebble itself has no nutrients. So you have to then give it nutrient rich water, which you can either do with a universal plant food, or my husband has recently become very interested in hydroponics. So there is certain like chemicals that he adds to the water that gives it the right type of nutrients for growth or blooming or maintenance. So we started playing in that. But also not all the plants want that substance. Some still sit in the ground. They enjoy that. So it has been so much trial and error. And I think, yes, you can maybe figure out a strategy, but what has worked best for us is to kind of listen to your plants and see what they want and where they like. And sometimes you also have to figure out where they are happiest in the home. We have some plants that this one thrives in the bedroom with natural light coming in, but non-direct light, but the other one needs a bit more sun. So then you kind of have to shift them around a bit, figure out where they are, and then kind of leave them, let them settle in their lives. And yeah, so there isn't a strategy. The strategy is a non-strategy, I guess.
I just love the idea of it being a relationship with your plants, that you're getting to know them
Yes.
as individuals rather than just reading from a book. I mean, obviously that it helps
Yes.
to know, like it helps to start to know whether it's a sun lover or a shade lover or, but beyond
Yes.
that it
That
then
doesn't.
becomes this individual relationship, because I think it is where the mental health benefit comes from. I love that idea. So what of your 37 plant babies
Yes.
is your favorite?
Um, A lot of people say, like, how can you choose your favorite kid? But I think they all have different benefits. Like, I am absolutely in love with our monstarias at the moment. It's the same as the one in your background. They, for me, are very easy right now in our climate here in South Africa. They thrive. And if you just, look after them and make sure they've got the right amount of water and nutrients, they absolutely become such beautiful plants, and they're quite easy to look after. But then I've recently discovered the angel wing begonia, which is this beautiful, like almost dappled, spotted leaf plant that is also absolutely gorgeous. And when you put her in the light, she actually has like a glitter in her leaf, which is insanely amazing. And so far, she's been very happy. But then it's like difficult. Like we had this beautiful calathea, which has this velvety type leaf, beautiful, beautiful plant, but you killed her. And that was very sad. So sometimes the most beautiful plants can be the most difficult to nourish. And if you've got the hang of it, awesome. But sometimes the more plain and everyday plants can give you the most rewards. So it's difficult to say which one is your favorite, because they all have special attributes that, makes you excited about seeing them every day.
I love that. Again, it's a relationship, isn't it? So it's not different people that you have relationships with nurture different parts of you similarly. I really hope you enjoyed the conversations I shared today of real life personal relationships with plants. If you're keen to start keeping houseplants yourself, be sure to check out the PDF from last episode with all of those amazing tips from Liv from Fancy Plants. And you can find those alongside the show notes in the Changing Nature podcast section of the Arcana website at wearearcana.com. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave us a rating and a review. To keep up with the latest from us, you can follow us on Instagram or Twitter at FromArcana. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.